What's up everybody, another beautiful day in the Dragon House, and today we'll be taking a look at Dawn of the Infinite, Murozond's Rise. Now I'll be going over notable trash, interrupts, and boss mechanics. Now let me know what y'all think of these dungeon guides in the comments. So notable trash before Tyr, the Infinite Keeper. Tyr's Vanguard's Rending Cleave. Big frontal cleave which inflicts a stacking bleed. Make sure to interrupt the Twilight Magus, Epoch Bolt, and if possible stun their corroding volley cast. Now Keeper Valo's Titanic Bulwark reduces all damage taken by 50%, including their own, so tank it outside and use it for yourself if needed. Leray's Time-Sworn Maiden, tons of ticking AoE damage. Good place to pop a defensive. You also want to avoid their Orb of Contemplation or you'll get stunned. Being stunned is bad. Spurlock's Binding Grasp needs to be interrupted as fast as possible, and keep in mind that Spurlock can be covered by a sandstorm and you'll have to get inside of it to be able to interrupt it. Now for Tyr himself, most of his attacks will leave consecrated ground in its wake, which deals a ton of damage if you touch it, so make sure to move boss whenever it spawns. Now Tyr's Dividing Strike needs to be soaked by at least 2 players or he will enrage. Preferably everyone just soaks this, it will spawn consecrated ground. 2 players will get debuffed by Spark of Tyr and get a circle around them. They will deal damage to anyone within it, and healers, make sure to dispel one and heal through the other debuff. When these expire, they explode, dealing massive damage to anyone within the circle, so make sure you always spread with these. The Infinite Annihilation targets a random player's location with a frontal cone, deals lethal damage and spawns consecrated ground, so try to bait these towards the edge. Now the tank will also get slapped with a Titanic Blow. Literally the entire Titanic, which is a frontal cone aimed at the tank, deals a massive amount of damage and knocks you back, potentially off the platform. So tanks beware. Now when Tyr siphons the Oath Stone, everyone needs to spread out and soak all the temporal essences. If one reaches boss, his absorb gets larger. If you nom an essence, you get 10% haste and movement speed. Stacks up to 5. So soak all the essences, then burn down Tyr's shield. Now the group will take a lot of damage during this, so healers beware. Then we move on to notable trash before Morchie and Time Lost Battlefield. Now before trash, you'll need to complete a fun little gauntlet. Tons of infinite protectors that fires off frontal cones and balls upon balls swirling around. Balls. Now you need to pass through all of these without getting hit by anything. If you get hit, you get sent to the start of the gauntlet. If one player manages to get through, they can activate a safe passage for the rest of the group over to the left at the end. Now when you try to run this, you can bait the frontals by stopping near them, wait for them to start their cast towards you, and then run, so you can decide its direction. The balls though. For the trash, watch out for the Keeper's Timeless Curse. It's a ground slam, and you want to pop defensive healing cooldowns on Infinite Fury. Now all the yellow timey-wimey ads near the gateways will deal damage and clear sand around them when they die. The Rift Mages spawn a portal-ish when they die that you can use to traverse the sands faster. You also want to interrupt their Temporal Blast and Infinite Burn. Supply water. Healers, make sure to dispel Anomaly's Bloom, and tanks, beware of double and triple strike. Then you want to make sure to interrupt Pendul's Time Beam, deals damage to a player and spawns swirls. And healers, you want to beware of Chrono Axe's Temporal Link. Targeted player gains a huge healing absorb and takes a ton of damage, so needs to be out healed. This absorb is shared between the mob and the player, so the faster you're able to heal it, the better. They also spew out swirls in front of them. Chronal Eruption. Dodge swirls, they can stun you. For the Horde/Alliance Destroyer, they will spawn sapper mobs that chase players and blow up after a bit. Stun, root, knock him to keep him in check. Now the Destroyer will target players with Volatile Mortar. Mortar spawns a ton of bombs and swirls all over the place. Apply Shrapnel Bleed to players hit and spawns fire on the ground. Now for the Time Lost Battlefield boss. Boss itself will Mortal Strike the tank with Decapitate, dealing tons of damage. Tanks beware of the healing reduction. Also has a frontal cone, shockwave, and occasionally spin to win around the room. Don't get hit by anything. When they cast Insert Faction, they will summon 3 ads, 1 melee, 1 ranged, 1 caster. You want to stack up these ads as fast as possible and cleave them down. Focus damage on boss. Healers dispel Immolate or Fireball depending on faction. Stun or crowd control the Archer or Axe Thrower's Serrated Arrow/Axe. It applies bleeds on targeted players. Moving on, notable trash before Morchie. The Rocketeer does a ton of tank damage with its punch, and you want to make sure to interrupt its Rocket Bolt bolt volley. Aerobots has a frontal, electro-juiced Giga Blast. Then you want to interrupt Infinite Time Bender's Dizzying Sand. Disorients players. They will also channel Millennial's Aid into a mob, dealing damage to anyone within 12 yards and gives them an absorb. Purge, dispel this. The Time Lost Wave Shaper interrupt their Fish Bolt volley. Man, I wish I had Fish Bolts. Beware of their bubbly barrage, spawns pretty swirls. Don't get splashed. The Tide Hunter slap tanks with Slobbering Bite, and the dreaded Soggy Bonk, which reduces movement speed. Bonk bonk. Morchie time. The boss will target tank with Sand Blast, which is a frontal cone. If you will, don't get hit. Tanks, mind where you aim it. During her Mo problem, you need to find the correct boss out of all of her versions. The correct one is always the one without a hat. So everyone help identify the correct one, ping, or mark where it is, and everyone stack up behind it. After a few seconds, the correct boss will turn into a dragon and do a frontal, but you are safe as long as you're behind her. So go get behind that dragon. Now boss will spawn a ton of sandy time traps around the room. Don't touch these or you will get rooted for up to 30 seconds. Can be dispelled though. Then boss spawns ads and all around you there's familiar faces. They will each fixate a player and run to hug him. Players need to kite these ads into the time traps to get rid of them. If they hug you, you will die. However, whenever you trigger a trap, everyone takes a big chunk of damage, so be careful with trapping them in too quick succession. And do use coolies. Notable trash before Chrono Lord Deus. Dodge the Infinite Slayer's frontal cone, as well as the on-ground slam Timeless Curse. You want to make sure to interrupt the Timeline Marauders displays Chrono sequence. It deals a ton of damage to the party and gives all enemies a big absorb. Now for Chrono Lord Deus itself. Throughout the entire fight, boss will occasionally spawn 2 Infinity Orb that slowly descends down from the sky. A puddle spawns beneath these orbs as they descend, and you need one player, preferably a healer, to soak one of these orb puddles to slow its descent. When they reach the ground, they explode. You take 300% increased damage from subsequent orbs for 4 seconds. So you slow down 1 to make sure they don't reach the ground within 4 seconds of each other. So you slow down 1 to make sure they don't reach the ground within 4 seconds of each other. During phase 1, portals will spawn with a big infinite keeper channeling into them, spawning more ads. Drag boss near him, focus damage on the big ad. When a keeper die, boss loses 20% HP. The keeper will also debuff players with Chronal Burn. Dispel. The boss also has a temporal breath aimed at the tank. Don't get hit. Now at 20% HP, boss stops spawning ads, but instead cast Infinite Corruption, spawning tons of big and small swirls all over the place. They also spawn temporal scar puddles on the ground. Tanks will need to kite boss around the room. Boss will still spawn Infinity Orbs and do its frontal breath in his face. Just kite and burn. And that's pretty much it for Murozond's Rise. Now I hope it helps, and if you have any questions at all, hit me up in the comments on stream or become a patron or Twitch sub and get access to the Stankie Discord, where you can get help with anything PvE related like dungeons or raiding. Don't forget the usual stuff if you want to help out. Like, comment, subscribe, and slap that notification bell. I'm releasing a lot of guides for 10.2, so thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time.